Right, well, we're live. What a race that was towards the end. Oh my god, nothing massive happened towards the end, and then we just get a massive finish to this Grand Prix. Absolutely incredible. The British Grand Prix, the 70th year of Formula One. The first. Oh, I'm watching myself. The first time that we've actually headed to Silverstone. Oh my god, what a finish. We have to start, of course, at the very start. 150,000 fans down. No one's going to be at the iconic Silverstone track. It's a little bit of a shame, but we're still going to put on a great spectacle. No Sergio Perez. That was the biggest news heading into this race. He was unfortunately the first driver to contract COVID-19, and he was put on isolation. And Racing Point replaced him with number 27 Nico Hülkenberg, who left Formula One. Last race was in Abu Dhabi last year. He was returning to the Racing Point team, of course, the Force India team who he drove for in the past, but unfortunately he could not make the start today. He had a power unit problem. The team could just not fire it up, and unfortunately just before the race he couldn't take part in the race. That was the first retirement of the Grand Prix, which is really a massive shame, but nevertheless an amazing start to the Grand Prix. The spectacles, the great rendition of the national anthem, a great support, of course, with the pledge that, of course, Formula 1 have been doing to end racism and things like that. And we're set to have a great race, and it started off with a very good start. Max Verstappen getting a great start on the grid, almost taking Valtteri Bottas, but in the first corner it was led by Lewis Hamilton, and the progression was shown basically from the two Mercedes drivers at the start. Good start by the McLaren drivers. Also, George Russell had a five-place grid penalty, and unfortunately after his grid performance in qualifying dropped back to last place on the grid alongside Danny Kvyat on the back row. Heading into the final corner at Club, Alexander Albon and Kevin Magnussen came together for a pretty spectacular crash, sending K-Mag into the gravel. He lost a tyre, I think it was rear right, and was out of the race. Alexander Albon was then handed a 5-second grid penalty along with the damage that he had on the car, and of course a bad qualifying session from the Saturday meant that the British driver had fallen down the ranks. I have done a TED notebook style, so just let me crack open that. So obviously the power unit was lost from the team. Lap 13, Danny Kvyat had a big crash and he brought out the safety car. Now 2013 saw problems with the curbs and the tyres, and this was really no different to that. There was very windy going around, the first corner of what was normally the track at Silverstone, heading into Maggots and Beckett. The tailwind and the crosswind was quite strong around there. Danny Kvyat just clipped the curb just a little bit, either too aggressively, the wind caught him out and sent that car all the way around. Martin Brundle said it might have been a deflating tyre that he had on the rear right, but it was just a little bit of a dip on the curb, and as I say, sent him into the corner. Really nothing that he could have done. So obviously he was crashed, and it was a big shunt for the Russian driver, and the AlphaTauri was out. Big for him, and it sent out the safety car for the second time. Of course, first safety car came out after K-Mag's crash, second safety car came out after Kvyat's. Then when the safety car came out, a lot of people pitted, basically almost all of the grid. Roman Grosjean was one of the big people to stay out, but a lot of the drivers came into the pits to change tyres for two reasons. One, of course, strategy. Normally people do pit under the safety car, but the second reason is, and as I've just said there, about 2013, if there was a problem with the curbs, if there was a problem with the tyres, of course they wanted to get that rectified, so that was another reason why they changed tyres. Roman Grosjean, who was a big contender, he climbed 12 positions to make it up to P5 at one point. Around lap 26, he was doing some really good performances in that car. Of course, his teammate Kevin Magnussen was not in the race. The sole Haas driver was really the only person in the race, and it was looking good for the French driver. He was showing the black and white flag for moving under braking on the final corner. It was a good performance by him holding that position, but it got later and later in the race and he hadn't pitted. Basically everyone was holding on for a very strange reverse strategy for the French drivers. Tyres were looking good, the car was looking good, and of course Haas really showing performance gains from the last three races in Austria and Hungary, but it was looking good for the French driver. Definitely had driver of the day in the bag if he could hold that position, but we'll have to see what would happen when he pitted. Then he did go into the pit around lap 40. He went from 7th position all the way back to 16th, and then came out 17th position, all the way back at the back of the grid, passed by Latifi, passed by Kimi Raikkonen, and that strategy did not work for the French driver. Really unfortunate for him. Lance Stroll gets a black and white flag shown on lap 47, and that's when you really think the race was over. So you had, of course, the two Mercedes drivers, Lewis Hamilton, Valtteri Bottas at the front. Max Verstappen definitely in no man's land. 15 seconds behind him was Charles Leclerc, and all the way in the distance, around 8 seconds, was Valtteri Bottas. Max Verstappen had what was thought to be a free pit stop for the Dutchman if he wanted to possibly go for the fastest lap, change onto the better set of compound tyres, and then go for the fastest lap, get an extra championship point. Of course, he already had third place wrapped up. Of course, the biggest shock was the end of the race. Valtteri Bottas with a puncher, lap 51. And then Carlos Sainz with car troubles, also in Lewis Hamilton. Massive shock. And Max Verstappen, who, as I just said there, was at one point just thought that he was going to hold on to third place, really shook everything up by basically getting the fastest lap of the race and thinking that he could have actually won the race. He was saying to his strategist, he was saying on the team radio, what's going on, what lap is this, can I win this race, what is going on. Again, Lewis Hamilton was quite befuddled as well. He had problems as well. It looked like the front wing had collapsed, and also looked like he had a slow puncher on the front, but he was over 30 seconds in the lead. No chance, no problems, Lewis Hamilton. There was no way that anyone could have caught him. It was confirmed that it is the front left tyre that was slowly deflating, also pushed down the front camber of the front wing. But as I said, no problems from the British driver. He wins in Silverstone, yet another win for the British driver. Mercedes have had a long run of form. They've won every single round bar one in the V6 era. Lewis Hamilton, again, pole position, almost the fastest lap, almost a Grand Slam, just missing out on the fastest lap to Max Verstappen. Valtteri and Lewis were trading fastest laps all the way through the race. But an incredible performance by Lewis Hamilton. He extends his lead in the World Championship, and a great performance. Obviously, the bad result for Valtteri Bottas, but nevertheless, amazing for the man from Stevenage. Right, let's run through the classifications of the 2020 British Grand Prix. The winner, of course, was Lewis Hamilton. 5 seconds behind him was Max Verstappen. And as I've just said there, 34 seconds heading into lap 52, and 5 seconds into lap 52 at the end. So Max Verstappen closing that gap. That is massive. I mean, that's 29 seconds. Quick math, I think 29 seconds he closed down. Absolutely incredible. Charles Leclerc a long way behind in third place. Again, really no man's land for him as well in fourth place, but of course with Valtteri moving down, it was a good podium finish for the Ferrari driver. Definitely needed. Fourth place was Daniel Ricciardo, the Honey Badger in Renault. Again, a good performance by him, battling those two McLarens who had incredible performance, incredible pace. Carlos and Lando really pushing the Honey Badger basically to his best weight, and I think that he deserves to give them a bit of maybe a Foster's in the paddock, because they definitely pushed him, I think, to get his best result. First place was Lando Norris, the man who I said was going to be on the podium. Again, a good result by him, I would say, of course, outscoring his teammate. I know that Carlos had the problems, but again, it was shown that Lando was going to be the stronger of the two McLarens. Again, Esteban Ocon in 6th place. That is a good performance by him. Consistent is probably one of the best things for him. Again, Daniel Ricciardo might have been more of the radical driver. Very consistent from Esteban Ocon. Pierre Gasly, a good performance by him as well, of course, battling Alexander Albon to the end, of course. Very deep-seated battle between those two drivers, of course. The two guys who have been demoted, Albon hasn't been demoted, but the two guys that have been knocked around by Red Bull, definitely. But he got the better of his teammate, beaten by a second and a bit on the line. 9th place was Lance Stroll. Unfortunate for him. I looked, he was third place bet. He was backed third place to win the race by some of the bookies. And then, of course, falling all the way down to 9th place was not good for him. Of course, the sole racing point in the race. Sebastian Vettel. Now, a lot of people have been saying what has been going on with him. Finishes where he qualifies. But 11th place, that's where he ran for most of, if not all of, the race. Really unfortunate for Seb, if it's the car. But if it is him, it's just, you've got to really think what is going on. Very kind of, he must be one of the worst performances that Sebastian has done around this track. Of course, he won here in 2018. Okay, in 2019, of course, he collided with Max Verstappen in that race, but not too bad. And of course, a good record for the German driver around Silverstone. But today could have been the worst, if not the worst, performance by Sebastian at Silverstone. 10th place for him, just inside the points, one measly point, and of course where he qualified. Also, Valtteri Bottas falls from 2nd to 11th, really unfortunate for him. Then we have 12th place George Russell, incredible performance by him. He started in last place. Great performance yesterday, 25-0, beating Nicholas Latifi, and of course 25 running into beating Robert all season long last year in qualifying. Good performance by him, definitely in contention for our driver of the day. 13th place was Carlos Sainz. Again, he had that problem at the end. 14th place is Antonio Giovinazzi. 15th was Nicholas Latifi. 16th position, not finishing last, but really the strategy was not great from Haas, and indeed Roman as well, or maybe just Haas. Maybe Roman didn't have so much to say about that, but it was not good from him. There was also a problem that he had in the pit stops also. There was, I think it was the rear of the car, one of the rear jacks. Again, the problem that Haas normally have with their cars, just getting kind of not getting the best, smoothest pit stop that they possibly could. Obviously pitted no one around him as well, but the pit stop was around 4 to 5 seconds. He came out and lost over 10 positions, really, really big from him. And of course, then Kimi Raikkonen, nothing said by him about why the car wasn't good. Alfa Romeo haven't said that the car was under any sort of problems or anything like that. But definitely, Kimi Raikkonen definitely struggling in that car. He came on the radio and said, "What the bleep is wrong with my tyres?" Definitely struggling with the crosswind coming out of Copse Corner into Maggotts and Beckett's, but nothing said why that car was not good. The three retirees in this race. Danny Kvyat, of course, crashing early on in the race. Massive shunt by him. Maggotts and Beckett really annoyed, pushed the camera out of the way, and then went to the medical centre. Just recently discharged. We are hearing no problem for him, but obviously a big job and a big headache for AlphaTauri going into next weekend. Kevin Magnussen again, not really annoyed by the crash. He sees it more as a racing incident, which is good. Obviously, he crashed coming with Alexander Albon just about a minute and a half into his British Grand Prix in 2020. Alex Albon gets a 5-second time penalty, which was added onto his pit stop for that crash. And of course, Nico Hülkenberg, as I just said there, the man who did not start this race. Really unfortunate for the German driver. He was called on Thursday night. He was actually in Germany, and then came out to the track on Friday morning. Apparently, he went to bed at 2 a.m. on the Friday morning after having a seat fitting and then a COVID test. Really, really great response from the ex-driver. And just the way that he was able to manage the car for all four sessions this weekend. Of course, he did FP1 to 3, and then 13th position in qualifying. 13th is good for him. I couldn't see any difference. I mean, of course, Lance Stroll was a long way up in qualifying, but for a man who hasn't driven since December last year, that is good. That is a good result. Very annoying for Nico not to do this, but again, it might be a positive thing. Sergio Perez will not be doing the 70th year anniversary race. He is definitely ruled out of that. The UK government and the FOM have said that, he has to quarantine for 14 days. So Nico Hülkenberg will be doing next week's race, and maybe that's a good thing. He's had 4 practice sessions and of course simulator work to work on the car, get his neck muscles through and things like that. They say his body was going to go through nothing. He was going to go through basically the strongest kind of pounding he would have ever had if he did this race. He'll have a week to work on it, go back to the factory in Silverstone, just over the road, and work on it for next week's race. Of course, Sergio will not be doing it. He will be partnering Lance Stroll in that race. That is about everything for the race. Lewis Hamilton, of course, then just having celebrations on the podium right now with that golden trophy. Looks pretty good up there. Of course, 2 different teammates, Max, Red Bull driver from Holland, and of course Charles Leclerc, Monegasque driver from Ferrari. He has got one of his team pit wall mechanics with him up there. Small trophy for him in front of what would have been 150,000 fans at Silverstone. Bit unfortunate, but still a good result. Again, Renault look like they're going to be protesting against Racing Point. Lance Stroll was looking strong in that race. We'll have to see what happens through that. Of course, as I've just said there, the biggest result, Sergio Perez not being able to do the race. Massive shock for Formula 1. But hopefully everything gets sorted out. And of course, from the F1 division, we definitely hope Sergio Perez has a speedy recovery going forward. Lewis Hamilton takes his 87th win, so we are looking at record being almost broken and not too far away for that. Definitely putting him in good stead for next week's race. In terms of driver of the day, now again, I missed who was on F1 driver of the day. I think Alexander Albon, definitely. Let's see what he did. He got basically not a good pole position from him. No, sorry, not pole position. Not a good qualifying from him. Came back from a crash and a 5-second penalty and a hard pit stop as well. Along with obviously his some of the things that are following him, so like not being as good as Max and things like that, to get his result in the points, and of course battling his old team, his old Toro Rosso companion, or the man who of course he replaced at Red Bull. Definitely a good result for him. Again, you all look at Pierre Gasly and George Russell. Romain Grosjean would have been in there, of course, if the pit stop strategy had worked for him. Just really unfortunate that he wasn't able to get that. And you could say Max, just for the end. Of course, things did really work out for him. It probably wouldn't have worked out, you know, if Bottas didn't get the puncher. But nevertheless, it was good from him. And there we go, that was a race. A very good race, a very strong race. And in the World Championship, Lewis Hamilton extends his lead. Max Verstappen also extends into second place. And yeah, winners definitely Mercedes. Losers, Ferrari. I mean, Charles, even though it's a good third place, not the best result for the team. Again, Sebastian Vettel with a 10th place. Racing Point were looking incredibly strong, but of course having one driver out in the form of Nico Hülkenberg and Lance Stroll, who did a good performance in that car, but of course nothing would have worked out well for the Canadian driver. It was a good race, it was an enjoyable race, definitely. The ending was like something amazing. Definitely don't walk away from that. It could have been a cliffhanger, and it definitely was incredible to watch. So obviously let me know in the comment section below. Let me know on the live stream as well if you guys are there. Of course, we're just getting a few comments. It was absolutely incredible. What an end to the race. Let us know what you think of the race, your driver of the day also. And yeah, I mean, absolutely incredible performance. Mercedes definitely on top. Of course, they have now won all the races in the 2020 Formula One season. And it is looking like an incredible we are in an incredible calendar so far. It's been a great weekend, of course. The absence of no fans has definitely been upsetting, but we've made a good effort for that. Of course, the different kind of murals and things like that on the grandstands also, and of course the screens just in front of the entry loop. And we'll hopefully get some videos of people on the F1 70th anniversary race next weekend at Silverstone. So yeah, I am happy with that. So many punches, Daniel Philpott says. Definitely, there was a lot of punches. Yes, I do think that it was like a 2013. The drivers were scared that there was going to be problems with the curbs, and maybe there was as well. We did see a lot of punches. Lewis Hamilton, Valtteri Bottas, of course, Daniel Kvyat who span out. So it was a big thing from that. Maybe the Silverstone officials will have to look at that, or maybe it's just one of those things that happened in that race. But we're definitely set for a good race next weekend. I could say this is a solid 8 out of 10 race, a good finish. Maybe not the most entertaining race throughout, but definitely good toward the end. Threw up some massive curveballs as well. Some good team progression as well, but some definitely hard things to swallow. Daniel Kvyat, of course, and obviously Nico Hülkenberg, Force India, the Racing Point driver, definitely not taking part, was definitely a big shock from that. Race went ahead very well. Toward the start, great precedence from the drivers, of course. The GPDA definitely got along to talk about the pledges that the drivers were going to do in the movement of to end racism. Of course, we had about